Hey everybody, welcome to an insanely special episode because this is the inaugural episode of what may be called Impact Entertainment at some point. We're not entirely sure, but we are on a brand new set today. We just had this bad boy built. We are all incredibly excited. And we're going to be talking today about, drumroll please, Blade Runner 2049.
Spoiler alert!
All right, this is going to be spoiler alert central, motherfuckers. So be very careful if you're wading into these waters with us. You are very much going to either want to have seen the movie or not care that we're going to spoil everything for you. Because to really go deep on this stuff, we're going to have to talk about all the stuff that happens in the movie. And want to welcome our live audience. What is up? I go live. We are trying you out for the first time. I actually have no idea if anybody is actually watching this live. You're too far away. We have one viewer. Look at that. Amazing. So we are considering a heavy investment into I go live just as a platform. Think that it has a lot of really cool potential. So we'll be messing around with that. So this is the inaugural episode. All right. So without further ado, boys and girls, I want to introduce who's joining me today. So I will address this out here so we can go back to the wide. So to my left, I have Dr. Finesse. Welcome, Dr. Finesse.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And over here we have Files. What is up, Files?
What's up? So excited to be here.
So excited to have you guys. All right, so we're going to be diving in. But first and foremost, I want to know, what you guys think of the movie?
Do you want to jump in first?
Sure, I can.
Right, yeah.
I really liked it. I loved. It was visually, obviously, spectacular. I was emotionally affected by it more than I thought I would be. And I think I actually liked it more than the original.
Fair enough.
Maybe a controversial statement, but yeah, I liked it a lot. There are a few problematic things about it, but overall, I very much liked it.
Nice.
Yeah. I actually strangely loved it. And I say strangely because we've talked about this before. And anyone who knows me knows that I just do not like the original Blade Runner. I do not. People talk about it like it's the best thing since sliced bread. I think it's the worst thing since sliced ass. It just does nothing for me.
Wow.
And I rewatched it the night before seeing this one, and it still did nothing for me. I was like, this movie is garbage. Now, the themes are fantastic. I love the plot. I love the whole idea of replicants and all that. It's amazing, right? But I think it was poorly executed. Great story, poorly executed, poorly acted, except for Rutger Hauer, and I still did not enjoy it. That being said, if you haven't seen the movie and you're still listening to this, you're crazy. But if you haven't seen the movie, I think you have to either know the first one very well or see it the night before. Because that made me love this one. When I watched the original one, it was like they did such an amazing job with this one to making it match the exact tone of the first one.
But is that really relevant? I mean, so if you thought the movie was shit, I'm surprised that you cared that they matched the tone. Now, one thing I will say, and when you saw the original, did you ever see it on the big screen?
No.
Okay, so when I saw Blade Runner for the first time, I saw it in at like USC had these like a library for movies. So literally, you would go and you'd check out the Laserdisc. You would go into a little booth with a small TV, pop in the Laserdisc, and you'd watch it. And it was like assigned to us. I watched it. I thought it was terrible. I did not get it at all. I was like, why is this movie so big? And then I had a teacher who was like, if you watch Blade Runner on a TV, fuck you. Like, you need to see this thing on the big screen. Like, literally, this is a movie that was shot to be seen on the big screen. It was shot in an era before VHS was a big thing. So it was never meant to be seen on a small screen. You have to see it big. And so I thought, okay, well, let me try it again if it ever comes through on the big screen. And it did. And I went and saw it, and I was blown away. Because the movie, it's meant to be oppressive. It's like, it's cyberpunk, it's, you know, somewhat apocalyptic. It's not apocalyptic, but it's like the true nature of the cyberpunk dystopian future where LA needs to be oppressive. It needs to bear the fuck down on you. And without that element of it really being this like massive crush, because that to me is at the soul of both the original and this one, is that humans are swallowed by technology. So the buildings, the size of the city, the scope of life is so overwhelming that you can't help but feel small, and not in like the cool Carl Sagan way of look at the stars and feel small, but like you're crushed down by it. Did you see it big screen?
I did not.
I'd be so
afraid
curious. I'd be so well. You've seen it twice now, so that's tough.
Actually,
to,
no,
like,
more than
overcome.
twice. I've given this movie so many chances.
Then that begs the question: what the fuck are you doing watching a movie you hate more than twice?
Because everyone keeps raving about it. I'm like, I want to be part of the crowd. I want to know what it is. I gave it so many opportunities, and I love Harrison Ford.
All right.
So that's why. But to answer your question about the matching tone and why I like the second one and not the first one as much. Again, I feel like the first one was poorly executed, and this one was executed very well.
All right, I can't let you say it's poorly executed unless you say why.
Okay, so I think it's poorly executed straight up, and I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to do the whole L.A. noir type of thing with the voiceover, Harrison Ford's voiceover.
You saw the voiceover version. You can't do that.
Well,
I know. Well,
that's very controversial.
yeah,
Right.
it is. I know. Believe me, I've seen every version possible. Even I probably even sat in on the set, didn't even know it. Like I gave it so many opportunities. So there's that. But just again, this is very controversial. Harrison Ford is not a great actor. He isn't, and it serves its purpose with Indiana Jones and Han Solo. That works perfectly. But for a movie like this, it just didn't work for me.
Interesting.
It didn't. And this is really jumping ahead, but I won't jump ahead. But one of the things.
This is jumping ahead, but I won't jump ahead.
Yeah, but I'll meet
you guys will
halfway.
get to know Dr. Finesse here over time. And by the way, Dr. Finesse, that isn't an ironic name, despite current discussion trends here to the contrary.
But one of the things I always hoped for, in fact, when I first saw Blade Runner, I remember thinking, oh my God, Deckard is a replicant. And I could not wait for that to be revealed, and it never was, right? So that killed me that wasn't part of the plot. Every time I watch it, I hope it. Even when I watched it 2 nights ago, I hoped for that. Because I somehow forgot. I was like, wait, is he one? Am I forgetting something? So another reason why I like the second one more.
Interesting.
Well, I would argue with that because I don't
That's
think the
fine.
second movie answers that question, and I like that.
Are you high?
No,
You don't-
I
you
guarantee
don't know
it is
that they-
ambiguous.
What?
They do not, with finality, answer that question.
You were out of your mind.
I'm not out of my mind.
The whole
and
movie revolves around, and remember, spoiler alert, the whole movie revolves around the fact that replicants had a child. And
no,
he's the
that
father.
a replicant had a child.
What do you think?
You could have.
So
Rachel and Deckard had a child. That doesn't mean they both have to be replicants.
I think that's insanity.
First of all. Second of all, he aged, which makes it questionable that he's a replicant.
No,
and-
replicants age. They just have like some of them have really, what do you call it, indeterminate lifespans.
exactly.
Okay, I'll maybe let that slide. But in general, I think it's better that we aren't for sure. I would
Yeah,
personally
I
rather
agree,
him be
I
a
agree,
human,
yeah.
and I like that it's ambiguous because to me the point of the movie is one of the points of the movies is your humanity. This big question about your humanity. It doesn't matter. We are all like human. So if he's a replicant or not is sort of irrelevant, which is what we end up discovering about Ryan Gosling's
I think
character.
you're out of your fucking mind. So first of all, I think it matters deeply to the thematics of the film.
Also,
whether
the
he's a replicant
filmmaker
or
said
not.
that they did not answer the question.
That is a lie.
It is not.
That is a lie. All right, that's
I
hard to
looked it up.
overcome. That is admittedly
She was
hard to
like that
overcome.
person
Right.
in court who's like,
Excuse me, Your Honor.
They said they left
She
it
slipped
some more in
ambiguous.
there.
That's hilarious. So first of all, I want to welcome everybody that's joining us live. I'm guessing each and every one of you found us through the iGo Live app versus 20 people from our normal following have made their way here. For those of you that don't know, this is a company called Impact Theory, and our whole goal with all of this is to ultimately create entertainment that has high impact, that do what we call pulling people out of the matrix. I won't bother diving into that now because I really want to go through some of the themes in Blade Runner, but thank you guys so much for joining us. Okay, so to me, the most important thing for us to discuss is exactly what you're touching on now, which is like the central theme in the movie for me is, are we special? Are we unique? What makes us unique? What defines us, right? That's, I would say, both what was explored in the first film and what was explored much more deftly. And like you, I actually preferred this one to the first one. So the first one I really feel is like situation dependent. If you don't see it on the big screen, you are absolutely fucked. And I mean that. And watching this one, I thought it was directed by Ridley Scott. I didn't realize till the very end. So I was like waiting with bated breath because I was like, this motherfucker has gotten better with age, which unfortunately is not normally true. Very few directors get like profoundly better and make just profoundly better films at the what has got to be the twilight of that man's career. And I was so blown away by this movie. I was freaked out. I loved it so much. Off camera, I've said this might be my favorite film of the last 10 years.
Wow.
I'll go.
Wow.
So I'm not saying that officially here. I'll only say the last 5 years because I really have to like stop and think about, okay, what did I actually see over the last 10 years to make that? But that was my emotion. So emotionally, it really like, I was like, I can't remember the last time I was hit this hard. Because fucking Gosling can act. Let's start with that. That, like, his eyes. Like, I was scandalized by how good he was in this film. It's fucking outrageous. The score is unbelievable. Sorry, not just the score. The sound design of this whole movie was outrageously good. It will be nominated. If it doesn't win, it's a scandal. Oh, it was so like, it takes you on this emotional ride. It was absolutely fucking astonishing. So way, way, way into that. But the thematics of what makes us special, I thought was super important. So forget the abstracted from the movie for a second. What do you guys, like, what defines you as people?
You know, this sounds kind of cliche, but I think what separates people, humans from machines or from animals, so to speak, other animals in the animal kingdom, is our ability to emote and kind of push our love. You know what I mean?
Push our love?
Push our love. When I say push our love, because a lot of times when you meet someone, everyone wants to go after the love at first sight, that spark. Yeah, we all get it. But a lot of relationships, let's be real, a lot of times are built upon you like someone, you go after them, you kind of push yourself on them. Not like rapey, that sounds rapey, but you know what I mean. Like you,
that admittedly sounds hella rapey.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what your dating life has been like. That has not been my experience.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that's what defines us, you know, because everyone wants something. And whether you admit it or not,
you're saying that's what separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom?
Yeah.
Like, have you seen a fucking pigeon go after another pigeon? That's hella rapey. Like, they're pushing their love.
They are. That's right. That's pretty rapey. But if you think about a lot of the animal kingdom, they're doing it to survive. You know what I mean? Well, we're doing it to survive, but also to have companions, right? And
also, we have to what?
Also to have companionship. Like, we want companions. You know what I mean? We want that.
Do you know
person.
prairie voles?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But motherfuckers made for life.
Yeah, yes.
For life.
But you hear people talk about it all the time. Oh, when am I going to find my soulmate? When am I going to find this? You know, everyone's longing for that other person, whoever it is. And I think, I'm not saying that defines humanity, but it's a big, big part of us, a big part of our humanity. And that's a big theme that I saw in this movie. So that's
it's interesting. So I'm way into your notion of that connection, emoting, pushing our love is actually interesting. I've never heard that before, and I've known you now for quite some time. I don't at all think that makes us unique in the animal kingdom, but we won't go down that rabbit hole. So what do you, like, what actually defines you? Like, give me concrete specifics, not generally as like a species. What defines
me, Casey
you?
Files Elliott?
That is the one and only person I want to know about.
Oh gosh, such a big question.
Like, for instance, nobody asked you to roll up with the purple hair. Like,
oh yeah.
But that whole, like, there's something to that. I don't know if you think of it as part of your identity, but I do. Like, the fandom to me is a part of your identity. You get very hardcore about it. But is that big enough to make your list of things you would say is part of your identity?
Yeah, I would say so. Like, being passionate, which goes hand in hand with fandom, but being passionate about your interests so much that you're going to wear a purple wig for, like, this first show. Or, like, I love debating about what we're going to talk about on this panel, or talking about just anything in my life that I'm particularly interested in. If I hear someone else isn't, or they have a slight interest, that excitement to get to talk about it is definitely something that drives me. If I was going to say, like, the type of person that I would never date is someone who has no opinions on anything, who's just dry, boring, goes with the flow. That's the opposite of what I'm attracted to. So you'd rather have somebody
argue with you?
I think I'd at least be interested in them. Boring is the worst. And so, like, that excitement you get when you love something or don't love it is something that drives me a lot in everything I do.
Excitability.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that's
that
interesting.
passion.
You know what's funny is I asked you guys that question, and I'm not even like I really have to stop and think about what it is that I allow to define me. And if I had to pick one thing that I think sits at the core of how I view myself, it's discipline. Discipline is probably the thing. Like if I had to boil everything down that I care about myself, it would come down to that. Now I bring not discipline specifically, but what defines us up in context of the movie. Because watching Kay go through his journey, where what I love is at first, and it didn't dawn on me, it should have, that you learn very early on in the movie that he's the one, right? That he's the child of the replicants.
Even before you learn, you assume.
Yeah, 100%. And the fact that they confirm it, I should have thought they'd never confirm that this early in the movie, so there must be some sort of twist coming.
Right away.
But I didn't.
Yeah,
so I was like with
no.
him. I was like, whoa, like that really puts him at the center of this intrigue. Like it's going to be, interesting to see how this plays out, which by the way, I don't know if this is one of the things you hated. I actually thought that was hackneyed with Robin Wright, who I love as an actress, but like her subplot was so clunky to me. By the way, I want to get Hampton Fancher. I think that's how you say his name. I want to get him on the show.
Okay.
That'd be fucking incredible. Do you know who he is?
Screenwriter.
The screenwriter,
I know he is.
So super interesting guy. I saw him on a panel probably 23 years ago when he did that movie with Owen Wilson. Did you guys ever see that?
Which one was that?
Super fucking weird. Owen Wilson's a serial killer. It had a really weird tone. And I remember somebody asking him. So I've read the original screenplay to Blade Runner.
Okay.
It is some of the best writing. And I'll fucking include Vladimir Nabokov in this. It is some of the best writing.
Did you notice him in the movie?
Vladimir Nabokov?
He was in the movie?
Say what? He's dead.
Well, no, I don't mean him literally, but they reference him.
Really?
Oh.
Pale Fire is the book at the apartment. And
Jesus,
they quote
you really
it.
do get into this
They
shit.
quote it. I'm sorry, I'm totally getting off topic.
No,
but
please.
they quote it in the baseline test. I don't know what they call that, but
Which I
they're
love that
quoting
test.
from Pale Fire.
Ah.
Easter egg.
Wow,
everyone.
well done.
How
you love
great
Very
was that
impressive.
test, first of all?
That was pretty interesting.
I love that. But even if I was a replicant, I would trip up. I'm like, oh, what? I mean, talk about the pressure
Could you
of that
figure
test.
out the rules? I couldn't.
No. I was going to ask you
No.
guys. Do you know the rules?
The only thing I could in the first one, he just repeats the last
That's
word.
it, yeah.
So it's like, do you guys know how they would test for spies
No.
in World War II? So they would say, oh God, how did they would show you a card and it would say the word red, but written in green or some other variation, right? And so you had to say the color, not the word, or vice versa. I can't remember which. And there's like just a moment's hesitation when you have to translate it. And so they could trip people up because they were trying to obviously speak a language that wasn't their first language.
Yeah.
I always thought that was fucking fascinating. And so I thought of that test as they were doing it because they're saying this like sort of emotive, evocative shit, but then all you had to do was repeat the last word. But you would get so caught up in like the weird, sell, sell. Like,
no.
but then they would end it with a different word, and you had to just say the different word, but not have an emotion based on like the things that they were
So do
saying.
you think
Right.
that was based off of this test? Perhaps?
Yes, from a psychological perspective, I felt like they were referencing the psychological literature of how to trip somebody up.
Okay.
Where it's like you do one thing knowing that you're putting them in a certain state with that, and then you're asking them to go against state with some rule. But I couldn't figure out the rule. So it's one of those where I feel like maybe the writer, Hampton Fancher, was inspired by, but certainly wasn't taking it literally.
I'm telling you, that stressed me out. Everything about the room, the sound, the man's
The
voice.
fucking sound, dude. You knew the test was over because they would drop out the ambient sounds, which were designed to fuck with your amygdala. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. There were times where the music was like so oppressive that halfway through the movie I had to decide, is this the most genius like sound design I've ever heard or fucking obnoxious? and I decided that it was genius. But it admittedly was. There were times where I used to tell my students at film school, boring is not a genre. Like if you want to if you want to convey boredom, don't bore them. Like you have to convey it in another way that remains entertaining. And there were times where I felt the designers walking up to, they wanted you to feel the anxiety, but it was like so much anxiety that I just wanted it to fucking stop.
Yeah.
So they walked a very fine line.
Well, see, those are part of the tones that felt matched to me. You know, the music, the sounds, the score, even the gun. Like when that gun first fired off in this version, I was like, oh my God, that's that sound. Because did you notice the sound of the guns?
It's fucking brutal.
Yeah, it's like this loud. Because if you, not that I've heard many sounds of guns, but when you hear a real gun in real life, it sounds like a cap gun. It really does. Well, it depends on the gun. Like if it's if it's like a freaking Glock or something, it sounds louder, of course. But you hear certain guns and it sounds like a cap gun. But the guns in this movie, it's this loud echoing sound. And when it hits the body, it's even it's a fake sound, but it's loud. It's like a box just blew up. And I love that. So the second that they fired off the gun in this version, right away I was like, oh man, they're really sticking with the tone down to the sounds.
Yeah, the guns felt dangerous.
Yes,
because
they really did.
Largely because of the sound, which I loved. And there was something, and then I'll bring us back to the thematic that we were talking about. But there was something about, he must have trained to shoot a gun like a replicant for days. Because there was so much precision. Did you guys notice that? I thought that was so cool. It was like such a neat piece of choreography. The way that the guns were brutal in their sounding, and his fucking aiming was so precise and so fast that I thought, whoa, I wouldn't want to go up against that guy in a gunfight.
And he acted like a replicant so well. I mean, because I didn't watch the trailer. We discussed this before we started here. Rarely do I watch trailers. Sometimes I do, but rarely do I. And for this, I didn't know that he was going to be a replicant, Ryan Gosling's character, Kay. But in the beginning, when he's sitting down, and is it Batista? What's his first name again? David?
Dave.
Dave, yeah. When he's going to take him in, and he's so calm, sitting there being like, if you just wait a second, I just need to scan your left eye. And this giant man is standing over him. Clearly doesn't want to get taken in. You know he's going to attack.
Right.
But Kay is so calm sitting there, and I'm thinking, oh, he's got to be a replicant because he has zero fear.
It's funny. I didn't think he was a replicant then, but when the guy bashes his head into the wall 50 times and then pushes him through, I thought, if he's meant to be a human, fuck you. Because, like, your skull would just be fucking bashed in. About the time they cut to the opposite side of the wall and you just see the wall flexing as they're, like, battering this poor guy's head against it, I thought, okay, if he's not a replicant, I'm leaving. Like, that would just be insane. All right, so I want to bring us back to the thematics.
Yes.
So what makes us special? I thought they explored that brilliantly. And going on that journey with him from thinking, okay, I am the one, and that's both thrilling, and his home AI, whose name I forget, Joy was saying, I always knew you were special. I knew you were special. And I thought, that's so fucking interesting how we all long to be special. But he knows, like, but this is also extremely dangerous. And he's legitimately pissed off about it, right? When he has that moment with the memory girl and he flips the fuck out because he realizes that his memory is a real memory. Nice plant, right? And of course, revealed later to be a slight tweak on that. But he's legitimately pissed that, okay, the rest of my life, I'm essentially going to be on the lam. They're going to fucking hunt me down. And then, but when he realizes it's not him, it's like this heartbreaking moment. And I like legitimately felt for him. And it made me think about humans and about the way that we are and about how we all want to be special. And I think about in my own life, like how hard I've worked to become successful and like how much energy that I've put into that. And so much of that drive is a desire to rise above, right? Like my discipline is partly to be like, I'm more disciplined than others. I have differentiated myself. I have found that thing that makes me special. I have uniquely identified myself. And I think that's so important to humans, and I think is so a part of the anxiety of the coming AI revolution of, oh, I'm not special anymore. Do you guys remember what Love, which that's a whole fucking conversation in itself, but what Love says when she thinks that she's about to kill Ryan Gosling?
She goes, I'm the better one.
I'm the better one.
I love that line.
And I thought, I have the chills now remembering it because it was such like a revelatory moment where this replicant reveals like this really childish nature that sort of lays bare what we all try to mask in humanity, is that she wants to be noticed by her creator. She wants to get his attention by being the better one, by doing, you know, what he wants, by being that perfect machine, essentially. And it's fascinating how she's trying to be the best replicant. He's fucking Pinocchio and is trying to be a real boy. And so, like, you're really getting to see all these different sides of humanity. And for me, like, humans are by design fucking average. Like, just, you're not that special. And the whole point of life is to become special. Like, for me, right? I'm not expecting everybody to agree, and, you know, feel free to drop your hateful comments into the feed.
Well,
but
I mean, again, it goes back to the point I was making about what I think defines humanity is that need for love. You kind of mentioned it right there with Kay. Kay's a replicant doing his job, going through the motions, just doing what he's supposed to do, right? Then he gets confirmation, he thinks it's confirmation, that those are his memories, and, you know, he definitely has parents. He's like, oh my God, they're going to come after me. He's freaking out, right? But then he finds out, oh, he's not the one. Those aren't his parents. Deckard's not his dad. And there's that moment of loss. Here's Pinocchio, who wants to be human, and to be human is to have some people around you, whether it's love, companionship, parents, love life. He even creates an AI person. Joy. He has, not an AI, I'm sorry, like a crazy hologram on crack.
well, but you don't think of her as AI?
Well, AI, but also, like, I'm trying to, like, think even also beyond that. She was almost like this hologram on crack, where she popped up, but you can kind of touch her, but you can't. She can go through bodies, whatever. It was more than just AI, you know what I mean? So,
actually, I don't think it's more than AI.
Really?
And that's what I found so interesting, is that's where AI is going.
Yes.
And
sure.
There's something a little bit scary. So I want to come back to that. I want to start there. So go ahead.
But just in general, I mean, he's longing for a companion. He wants, you find out he really wanted parents, because when he finds out that he's not the one, Deckard's not his dad, there is this shroud of disappointment over his face. Because first he's like, I got to get out of here. I don't want to be the one. I don't want to be this person. But then he finds out he's not. He's like, oh, I want a dad. I wanted the dad. You know, I really wanted to be that person. And of course, with Joy, you know, he has this AI hologram person, and he just, you know, he needs somebody. He wants somebody. It's the love thing, and that's the theme I gathered from this movie.
I thought about it a little bit differently than that, but I wanted to say that the thing that I loved the most about this movie was that he was not the one. That was amazing for me, because it's such a trope that we've seen in so many other films, and I love that they subverted it in this way. And especially because of what you're saying, like, to me, that's much more relatable.
That you're not special.
That you're not special. We can relate to Kay because he's not destined to be great. He's not the miracle child of replicant and human, or replicants, whatever your view may be. He's not the miracle, but the great thing that he does is once he realizes that, he does have some dark moments, but then he decides to be a hero. Himself.
Files, I love that so much. What a fucking great interpretation.
I just love it. Like, he makes the decision. He goes even further than what the rebel leaders tell him to do, which is to kill Deckard. He actually saves Deckard and brings Deckard to meet his daughter, who he's never met before. So, like, he realizes the importance of himself, which I think until he has this experience, he thought, I'm this replicant who's programmed to do whatever they tell me to do. I have no importance on Earth. He goes through this experience, thinks he's the one, realizes he's not, and then comes to the conclusion, wait, I am important. I can do something that matters. And he does.
I love that so much, because to me, and here's where I think people struggle just in life, is they want to be by birth special. And you get this theme through the movie of, it's not nature versus nurture. There's something, it's a slightly different frame, which is, should we be celebrating natural talent, or should we be celebrating the human ability to adapt, to make decisions, to get better, to progress? And what I love about what you're saying is that's exactly what Kay goes through, right? Is he realizes, oh shit, I'm actually not special, but now I have a choice to make. I can either go back to being sort of the, like when his superior, Robin Wright's character says, you know, I want you to go do this. Is that going to be a problem? Are you telling me no, Kay? Yeah. And he says, I didn't know that I had a choice. Yeah. And of course, in the end, what's he do is somebody tells him to essentially do the exact same thing, which is kill somebody he doesn't want to kill. And he chooses not to, right? He realizes that he does have a choice, that he doesn't have to do somebody else's bidding, that he can do it himself. And in that, essentially, I keep attacking this microphone. He finds his humanity. And that to me is exactly the point. Like what people, like when you're going to really find that thing that empowers you, emboldens you, and lets you really manifest what you're capable of, which for me is the whole reason this company exists, right? To help people identify what skills they want to acquire those skills, and then put them to use, right? In service of something. And it's in that transition of getting better, of not worrying about where you started, but only focusing on where you want to go, the price you're willing to pay to get there, that's where we really get to define ourselves. That's where we really get to become something. And so I loved seeing that in the movie, largely because not only is it relatable, that I think everybody sort of inside feels I'm not special, and that's a big fear. You can become special, right? Mm-hmm. But the big fear is that I wasn't born special, and we so prize naturally talented people, which is so fucking weird to me. But even I do it. I prize like natural talent. When somebody's a natural athlete or a singer, you know, things that it's like, oh my God, it's just graceful. Mm-hmm. Versus like going, whoa, you've worked really hard to become exceptional at that, which should be sexier and way cooler because it means we all can do it, but yet isn't the thing that, as you know, by nature that any of us celebrate, which is really fucking bizarre. So loved seeing that play out through the movie, which was really cool.
We brought up Love earlier, the character Love. She was easily my favorite character of the movie.
The bad guy.
Easily, yes, the villain.
Interesting.
Wow.
Man, she was
terrifying.
Terrifying. Down to her hairstyle, down to the fact that she cried when she killed people.
Yeah.
What was that about? That tripped me out. It's like people who cry during sex. It's like weird. It's like I just didn't understand it, and it tripped me out. And it's almost like when those prison movies when they shank somebody and they whisper in their ear and they go shh.
I love that shit. I love that shit.
Like, you're stabbing me. I'm not gonna quiet down. Why are you telling me to shush? It's trippy. It's weird
What
stuff.
movie are you thinking of right now?
Oh God, so many movies.
What was that one? Oh God, with Eric Bana, where no. Another one.
That
great
was weird
moment.
too, yeah.
100% amazing.
Yeah, that was disturbing. Yeah.
But this was God.
With Eric Bana?
Yeah, he's in prison. He plays dude. No, fuck. I don't want to waste time. Anyway, he plays a prisoner. He's either English or Australian in the movie, and this guy is stabbing him, and he I don't remember if the guy's apologizing or something, and he just tells him shh.
Yeah,
God, it's so
for some
cool.
reason it's a theme in movie making that when you get shanked, you're supposed to get whispered in your ear. Someone's supposed to tell you, it's okay, I'm shanking you. Right. Keep it low, keep it quiet. Because I don't want to be caught. But I don't understand. It trips me out. So that's the same with her. It was so crazy to me to see her cry when, for example, when she kills Robin Wright Penn's character, Lieutenant Joshi. When she kills her, first you see a teardrop, and then it starts streaming. And she cried a few times in the movie.
Yeah, well, by the way.
Very
As
well.
As an actor, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, so it was just crazy to me. And I'm trying to wrap my head around the filmmaker's choice to do that. Like here's a villain that when she kills you, she's going to cry. Or if she does something crazy, she's going to cry. If she gets angry, she's going to cry.
I thought you were supposed to feel there's some sort of contradiction in her.
Yeah, that's definitely what I
she's
took.
made to be this badass assassin who literally does whatever daddy tells her to do, Jared Leto. But something in her knows that that's wrong. And that's why she cries. It's not enough to make her stop doing it, but there's some humanity or whatever in her that makes her feel something about this horrible...
See, to me, I thought they were like, let's just make her weird. Let's make her cry when she kills somebody.
Really? Well, so let me flip it for a second, and let's say that was the filmmakers exploring where AI is going, which is exactly how I took it. So here's why AI is both terrifying and exhilarating. humans have inclinations that put them into motion, right? So think about a baby. They're trying to explore their environment. So they have an innate desire to explore. And in fact, if a baby didn't explore, you'd take it to a therapist, a psychologist, something, and say, like, there's something wrong. Mm-hmm. So that is innate to humans, like to go in to explore your environment and then master your environment. So you see that in kids. First, it just starts with the instinct to feed, but then it's like wanting to wander around. And then once they can walk, it's a fucking nightmare. And you have to lock everything down in the house because they open every cupboard, pull everything out, go anywhere. You have a child, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's like, that's so innate. Every parent goes through it. Kids have to like touch everything. They pick it up. They like want to put it in their mouth. Like, it's fucking crazy. But that is programmed, if you will, right? So nature has baked that into us to make sure that we like, the game starts, if you will, and that we're constantly then throughout life doing that. And when you see people who've lost that inquisitive mind, that desire to search and explore and discover and learn, there's a sadness that we have for that person. And when you see somebody who's just really inquisitive, you want to be around them, right? To your point, excitability, right? That people get amped, that they have passion, that they want to discover something new. Like, we love that shit in people. So AI, you have to decide, what impetus are we going to give them? Like, when you code something at like a really fucking base level, you tell it, run the code, right? Like, go through the lines of a code. Even a website does that, right? It goes through the code, it looks for commands, it executes those commands. But if you didn't have that, then the code doesn't interact. It's totally inert. It just sits there. So then it becomes a question of, are emotions that? It isn't a human, right? You move towards pleasure, you move away from pain. Like this, it's all our programming. Mm-hmm. So at what point we're going to have to make these decisions in AI? So I loved it because you see in this conflict someone who is programmed both to do what Jared Leto wants her. And I'm terrible at fucking remembering character names, apparently. So Wallace. God damn, like, you guys are really good. The fact that you remembered Robin Wright's character, you just said it, and I already forgot it. So like, that's crazy. So like, seeing them go, what does this world look like? And one of the things that I ultimately want to do with impact theory, and one of the things we'll definitely do in the comics that are coming soon, is really explore that create where you can feel the decision maker, right? I can feel the AI programmers that exist entirely outside the world of the movie, but their influence on the characters is massive, right? Like, Ryan Gosling's character, K, I remember that one because it's only a single letter. Thank you for that.
You're like, L.
And in fact, if one of you remembers his entire serial number, I'm going to have a seizure.
Oh, Jesus, no.
That would have been very, very impressive. So the fact that he feels almost human is fucking incredible. Like, well written, well staged, and very, very well acted. That you buy it, right? He is a replicant. He's a little off, not quite human, but you feel
not
the
quite human.
programmers.
Do you remember that from the 80s?
Not quite human. Yes,
Yeah,
but is that a TV show, right?
It was a made for Disney Channel movie, but then it became a TV show.
I remember the TV show, but not the movie.
Yeah, Small Wonder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was it the same chick?
Different.
Okay,
the TV show was almost the same.
I definitely remember.
Not Quite
the
Human
TV
was
show.
the guy. Small Wonder was the girl.
Okay,
Yeah.
Small Wonder. Then I remember very clearly.
But you said it earlier that we are closer than we think to artificial intelligence, like full-on artificial.
You're saying I said that in this?
Yeah, you said it
No,
earlier.
I was saying that's closer to the reality of like what's going to happen with artificial intelligence.
Okay, so I just wanted to.
But artificial intelligence is rushing towards us. But this kind of general AI is way the fuck far out in the future.
I could only imagine.
And one thing I felt a little bit bad. There's no way the world looks like that in 2049. Let's be very clear.
Yeah.
Like, the number of things, you can't manufacture things at that scale. If they started today trying to build that wall, right, that blocks out the ocean, it would take till 2049 to like begin something like that, let alone also build the entire city. I thought just to mine the fucking ore it would take to build these monolithic buildings. Like, get the fuck out of here.
But I guess it was obviously the 2049 version of the 2019 version from the original Blade.
You had to, right?
You had to stick with that
so they got
timeline.
screwed because it was set in 2019.
But you know what bugs me about dystopian future movies, or any future movie? What bugs me, and I have to say this because it bugged me about this too, everything is so grand. Like you have these amazing skyscrapers and these amazing pyramids that look like skyscrapers, and then their vehicles always suck. But you think about us, like if you look at a car from like 1994 and you look at a brand new photo of it from 1994, you think, how did that car ever look new? Because I have to say, like manufacturers and designers for automobiles, they really step it up out of anything for me. Because I'm a car enthusiast. I love cars. Really? They really push the envelope. But for some reason in movies, like, did you see Ryan Gosling's car? I was like, what is this? It was a piece of trash. Now at the end, that transport vehicle that they were in, with Love and Deckard, was that cool, yeah. I was like, this looks like 2049. What a vehicle should look like.
Interesting. To me, if we don't have that by like 2030, I'm going to be pissed.
Right?
Like,
yeah.
So from that perspective, I felt like that. Again, they were hampered by the original. So the car looked, if I remember right, that is the car.
Yeah.
And it's cyberpunk, so it's meant to be ultra lived in, really old, but they didn't imagine the technology well. Like the windshield wipers literally look like I could take them off my current car and put them on that car.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would think in 30 years we'd do better.
I would say like a 57 Chevy looked better than that car. I was like, what is happening? But that's the thing. All those movies do that. For some reason, they're like, let's do grand skyscrapers. Oh, let's make robots and AI and this and that. But you know what? The cars are going to suck. And that's what, it just bugged me. I was like, oh my God. I mean, I did like the drone sunroof though. That was cool.
Yeah.
That was cool. And like they're a little bit hampered because they're so tied to the technology that was imagined back in what year did this come out? Like 81 or something? 82? Mm-hmm. That was a pretty fucking good guess. Yeah. You're such a ninja with this stuff though. I'm always going to be paling in comparison. But that is, I think, what really messed these guys up, because you don't feel Elon Musk in this movie, right?
No.
And he's already like, those cars, other than the fact that they can fly, which by the way, if you're going to do a flying car, if you don't use drone elements, like what are you doing? Because that like, we know that's where it's going right now. And if you want to nod to something the audience will go, oh, I could believe that. Mm-hmm. I think we should have seen that. But again, they're hampered by trying to, they really were, as you let off with, so very consistent with the themes, tones, technology, visuals, everything in the original. Although, honestly, because I'm such an obsessive fan of cyberpunk, I was horrified that the umbrellas didn't glow. Absolutely heartbroken.
That the umbrellas didn't glow.
Yeah, because that was like a thing in the original. The umbrellas lit up. And it's totally pointless, and I'm sure never something anyone would do, which is why they dropped it off. But like, if you're going to marry yourself to the original, like, it was such a fun part of the original. I'm just sad.
Huh. That's amazing. Harrison Ford, you mentioned this because you saw the trailer. I did not watch the trailer. And we had talked about this before we started. I'm still trying to figure out if I was disappointed that he shows up so late in the film, or if I'm okay with that. I'm still trying to figure that out. But I think it's the cynical side of me, because I went back and watched the trailer afterwards, and that makes me annoyed that he shows up so late. One thing that I hate, and I know you got to sell tickets, one thing that I hate that studios do or whatever is when they market a film kind of falsely, because when you watch the trailer, it looks like Harrison Ford is all over it. Right. He throws like 4 punches in the movie, maybe 6. And 5 of those are against Ryan Gosling.
It's that one scene where he punches him 10
and they're all
times.
in one scene. And he shows up with this gun. And I'm like, damn, we're an hour like 2:15 right now.
And that was my beef with it, because I knew he was in the movie.
Yeah.
Part of my mind was allocated to when's he showing up, when's he showing up, when's he showing up. All right, I haven't checked time, but I fear we're running low, and I want to talk about memories.
Got it. Yes.
So memories obviously played a huge role in this movie. What did you guys think about that?
I loved just the general scene where we learn. It felt like a nice little interlude from the main plot of the movie until we learn later how important that person is. But learning the process of creating the memories was pretty fascinating. And when Anna, I believe is her name.
You can make that shit up. I don't remember.
You talk about Dr.
She's the
Stelline?
memory girl.
Yes, Dr. Stelline.
What? Jesus.
Thank you.
This is why we call him Dr. Finesse, boys and girls. Is to like
Got all the
real
names.
with you.
When she tests Ryan Gosling. He says, I have this memory. I don't know if I think it might be, well, I don't know if he says that to her, but look at this memory. Is it real, basically? And she describes how a real memory would be so full of emotion that it wouldn't necessarily fit together and make sense, whereas the memories she creates are fully crafted. It brought it home to me thinking about like how I feel about my own memories and how they are so false in a sense because they're just backed by your emotion and not like fact.
So here's like one of the secrets behind why impact theory is focused on creating content is because films are a lie. A story is a lie. A memory is a lie.
Yep.
And it's the lie that makes them useful. And it's the paring down process that makes the memory useful for you moving forward. Because imagine if your memories weren't morals, they weren't lessons, which they are, by the way. Like when you think about your memories, it's a few key points. Like she said, it's deeply emotional. In fact, you're more likely to remember something if it's tied to a big emotion. I mean, it's utterly fascinating. In the real world, the way that the hippocampus stores memories is fucking crazy. And the fact that if the amygdala lights up, you're way more likely to have that stored into long-term memory. So knowing that like the way to make a memory useful is not to go through it in real time to remember every detail, but rather to remember only like those heightened emotional things that get pared down essentially into mythology. That's why storytelling is so potent. It's why filmmaking is the ultimate art form, in my opinion, because it uses sound, it uses imagery, editing, acting, like literal facial expression to trigger like mirror neurons in the way that we like empathize by moving our own face to match and to actually internalize and feel the emotion. It's all of that, and in a way that's highly edited, highly orchestrated down to just the emotional bits, that high degree of like movement that's what makes it work. And so the movie's exploration of memory and the way that we create them, the way that the replicants, like when he goes, I feel so weird telling someone a memory that I know isn't real, that I didn't live it. And then you find out that actually is true. And for a minute, he thinks, oh, I actually did live this, right? And then he can't fucking tell. He can't tell without like external feedback. Did I actually live that? Or is it just a planted memory? You guys know one of the thought experiments I do whenever I get caught in like a loop about something negative, I'm obsessing about something or whatever, is I'll say, imagine if right now, this very second, I was created in the Matrix, right? I don't actually believe that. But let's say for a second that that was real. And that this very second, mid-sentence, I fucking come into existence like a replicant. And everything that I believe before this moment is just a planted memory, like straight total recall. That frees me from the whatever pain or obsession that I'm having over a past thought, because now it's like, well, if they're all made up, I can choose to believe them based on what's going to help me move forward. And so that to me is why impact theory is leveraging like the change that we want to make in people's belief system, that we're leveraging storytelling because of that, the way that in simplifying the narrative down to those highly emotional moments, it really embeds itself.
Wow. Mine isn't as deep as that when it comes to memory, but I will say memory to me kind of just what makes us human. You know what I mean? We grasp our memories, whether they're bad memories, whether they're great memories. It's what keeps our loved ones near when they're gone. You know, I often worry about the digital age. I always think of the apocalypse. And if the machines were to shut down in the past 10 years, I would be screwed because I haven't kept a picture album forever. I rely on digital images. And memories are a big thing. Even my mother-in-law, when her house burned down, the firemen, it was lost. It was lost. But 2 firemen went in there and went through a closet specifically to find the photo albums.
Wow.
Not even they didn't even tell her. They came out with these boxes of photo albums and they said, we often try to grab photo albums because we don't want you to lose your memories.
Wow, that's legit.
Yeah, and it's a big thing. That's what we grasp to, you know what I mean? We look back, we think about it. We think our memories bring us back to a place, and it kind of defines who we are now.
Yes. In fact, I can't believe we didn't mention that when we were talking about what defines us. Like, forgetting sort of the more esoteric notion, your fucking memories, like literally make who you are. Have you guys heard about people that get amnesia and like, let's say they had an absolute aversion to ketchup. They get amnesia and all of a sudden they eat ketchup.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that's real. My wife fucking hates ketchup.
What?
And like actual phobic of ketchup.
Wow.
It's a whole thing because her brother used to torment her because at first she just didn't like it. And then her dad would, back in the day when we were kids at McDonald's, or when we were kids, at McDonald's, like they won't custom make shit for you unless you want to wait, right? And so then it's not fast food anymore. So her dad would make her scrape. So then she was always eating buns that were soggy with ketchup, even though she'd scraped it off. So then her brother realized how much it upset her. So he used to like put ketchup on his finger or like put ketchup on a fry and set it on her plate. And so it became like this emotional torment, literally.
Wow.
And so now like she's totally psychotic about ketchup. And I remember thinking if she had amnesia like that gone, because it's all like these memories that stack up. And that's a sort of fun, cute way of realizing like how much of who you are is that. There's an awesome Batman cartoon episode. Do we have any Batman fans here? The cartoon back in the 90s?
I think we may have talked about this.
So there's an episode where Bruce Wayne gets clubbed over the head and basically put into like an internment camp. And he's meek and like, because he gets amnesia. And so he's meek and can't do anything. And he's being bullied and all this stuff and like getting beaten up and oh God, what am I ever going to do? And then I don't remember what happens, but all of a sudden he remembers in his mind, I'm Batman. And then from that moment, he just starts whooping ass and like escapes because just remembering that he was Batman gave him that confidence again. And then he gets out.
This reminds me of The Lion King.
The Lion? I didn't see that coming, I'll be honest.
Simba leaves his whole family behind. He thinks he's responsible for his father's death, and he has this moment. If you'll recall, his father comes to him as a spirit and says, remember who you are.
Yes,
and that's finally what convinces him to go back.
That's funny, and also I think I made a mistake, and I'm thinking of this more recent Justice League cartoon that my son was watching the other day, and he watches this. Yeah,
just your son. You'd never watch that.
Well, actually, I sit in with him sometimes, but he watches this particular episode over and over again. And in the episode, it's this monster that causes the Justice League members to go into like this comatose state, but they're like this smiling, and you find out what's going on in their head, and they have their worst memory. They go back to their worst memory, and it becomes a good memory. And in Batman's memory, it goes back to the moment where his parents are killed in the alley. But in his memory, his dad actually grabs the guy's gun beforehand, and he's just punching the guy. And he's like, get him, Dad, get him. And he's happy that his dad is protecting his family, and Batman is just smiling, but he's not able to save somebody. And then I think Wonder Woman, out of everyone, is the only one who's not affected by this guy. And she's like trying to wake up Superman, wake up, Batman, wake up. And they finally snap out of it, and they're like, and they take on this monster, and they kill him.
That's interesting. Oh, man, I'm actually intrigued to see that now, because
It's a pretty cool episode.
I think Batman ceases to be Batman if he doesn't have that memory, right? That's the sickness. That's the bat. That's the thing that like really fucking drives this guy. Is literally one of the reasons that I take the Batman mythology so seriously is because I recognize that in my own life. Those things that drive you, that chip on your shoulder, that thing that is negative, that shows up for you when you most need rage. And, obviously in our other content, I've talked endlessly about having that chip on your shoulder that you focus on 20% of the time, right? Never going beyond that, because then it becomes corrosive, but like really leveraging it for acute things. And there's been all kinds of studies where if you need somebody to endure more pain, like, so they'll put their arm, submerge it in ice, and they make them hold it there as long as they can get people to leave it there 30% longer by letting them express anger. So by swearing, by yelling and getting pissed off, because anger is like a natural protective mechanism. It gets you fucking energized. You're so focused on the rage that you lose sight of, oh yeah, I'm actually in extraordinary pain right now. So I've always found that so interesting, and is such proof positive of things like that, where Batman, I don't think, would ever be able to go on to, do the things that he does over the long period of time if he wasn't absolutely fucking haunted by the fact that he was weak and wasn't able to save his parents.
I think that's what makes that scene where Ryan Gosling finally, he thinks the memory is now real, so powerful. I'm sure you remember that he has this really dramatic reaction.
He's like,
he
"Ah!"
screams. That's the most emotion you've seen from him the entire movie up until
By a
that
factor
point.
of
Yeah.
100.
And because this whole time, his entire life, he knew that his memories were false.
Yeah.
So if we go back to how important are memories, to him, they meant nothing. He had no emotional tie to
Yep.
any of those memories. And then that moment, it's like all at once, this thing that you've remembered but thought was a fake plant in your brain is real.
Yeah.
It just
I love that
devastates
scene
him.
so much. I love that moment so much. And it almost felt like a collage of feelings that he was, what you're saying, that everything that he believed is not true. And then also, I think there was an element of fear there. Like, he was like, damn it, now I need to freaking get on the run.
That's
because
all I took away. Like, I'm like, whoa, you guys are some deep motherfuckers. Like, I watched the movie and thought, oh, he's just freaked the fuck out because now he's going to be on the lam forever. That's interesting. I love that shit.
And then
Yeah.
if you think about it later, I don't know, this is the question I have in general about the film. I don't know how much Dr. Celine knows about herself, if she knows that she's this miracle child or not. But she certainly knows that the memory she just watched is her own memory.
she
This
starts,
is so
because she starts
interesting.
crying.
So she cries.
She starts crying.
Yeah.
It's those tears, man. Those tears get me every time.
100%. Oh, that's true. I actually don't. You're right. I don't know if she knows she's the child of the replicant.
I don't think
Yeah.
she did until that
But
moment.
in the movie, I thought, oh, because they do the like Sixth Sense flashback where you rehear her say, oh, there's a little bit of the artist and everything. Yeah, but you're
That
right.
machine was like, what do you call it? The microfiche boxes that we used to have to use. That's what it
The
reminded me. She was looking through.
TCGC, like
Yeah.
that whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And her little like memory creator was like lens. I don't
Yeah,
know what it was.
yeah.
Very
It was like-
interesting.
it
The
looked like a
design. It was
lens.
just like this little lens.
Yes.
It was like a bunch of lenses attached.
There was a moment where I zoned
It's
out in the film with her, when they showed her memory creator, because I started to think, wow, why did they make it like a lens? There's got to
Yeah.
be a reason. Because, I know, like, for example, like if you get like a 24 by 70 lens, there are so many pieces of glass in there and they work really intricately, and which is why it costs like $3,000 for one of those lenses, so to speak. So I was sitting there trying to think about it. I was like, why is that lens like that? Why is her little operator looking like a lens? And I zoned out for like a good minute. And I was like, oh, wait, what's he doing here?
Where am I?
Yeah, and that movie did that a lot. There were so many moments where I was like, what was the choice behind that? Like
All
those
right.
damn tears.
Before we wrap, any final thoughts?
I have another fun Easter egg
Oh,
from
give
the
it to
film. I don't know if you noticed that the ringtone every time Joy appeared
Yes.
was Peter and the Wolf.
Yes.
Peter's
yes.
name,
Really?
which is burned into my memory from childhood because it was terrifying. Do you know Peter and the Wolf?
Yeah, of
tale,
course, but I couldn't place it. I
every
knew I
time they
knew
played
this
it-
song, but it never
Right
once
away,
occurred to
I
me.
was like,
Yes, and
Interesting.
which I think fit with specifically Joy's character, but also Kay, because what happens in Peter and the Wolf is Peter defies what everyone, specifically his grandfather, is telling him, which is like, don't go out into the woods, the wolf will eat you. And instead, he goes against those rules and ends up like being the hero of the story.
Wow.
In some ways. So
Love
I think
that.
that was on purpose.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
it
my
had
God,
to.
for
Yeah.
sure.
played it
Like,
so many
Of
times.
all the,
Oh,
of
yeah.
all the
The
sounds.
second I heard it, I was like, yeah, it's Peter and the Wolf.
Yeah,
And then I
same.
was, again, got lost for a minute trying to figure out, like, why did they do this? Because there are so many moments in the movie like that. So many Easter eggs and so many things that make you think, why? I guess final thoughts on this movie. But again, I loved it. I love that a sequel can make me rethink the whole package and kind of rethink the first one. I still stand by it. I don't really think the first one's a great movie, but as a package, I think it's a good movie, and I appreciate Ryan Gosling so much more. My wife loves Ryan Gosling. I even told her, I was like, she's like, is he in it a lot? I was like, man, this movie, you can do a movie about Ryan Gosling's face, and this movie would still have more Ryan Gosling in it. It's so Ryan Gosling heavy, and so little of Harrison Ford, very little of Jared Leto. But yeah, so I think Ryan Gosling has done a lot of great films, but with this, he captured being a replicant more than anybody could, I believe. He was perfect for it. Perfect. I even wondered why they cast Ryan Gosling in this movie before even knowing what was going on, and it makes perfect sense because there's something about the way he acts. He acts almost like robotic, and he is kind of a robotic person, so to speak, although he could be kind of debonair. And I think he was perfect for it. Great movie all around. Great package all around. I'm glad I watched the first one and this one again.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for this inaugural episode of possibly Impact Entertainment. We shall see. But we were talking today about Blade Runner 2049. I really was blown away by this movie. I think it is cinema, and I use that word very intentionally. I think it is cinema at its absolute finest. I don't think there were any things done by accident. So to your Easter eggs, to the music choices, the sound design, the acting, the writing, the directing, it was absolutely brilliant. I am obsessed with the pacing of this film, which is so intentional. Just really, really done well. I hope you guys will go out and see it. I am horrified that this movie didn't do better at the box office. I really, really wish movies like this could find a broader audience, because, man, I am just grateful that this one existed. I was enraptured emotionally from the beginning to the end. It was absolutely incredible, and it does make you think to the point where you could very easily get lost in things. It's not without its faults, and we sort of unintentionally didn't talk about any of the faults. But overall, I think that this is a masterclass in cinema. So hopefully you guys will check it out. Let us know if you made it this far, I guess, without having seen the film. That'd be a little crazy because we're fucking spoiler central. But we'd love to know your guys' thoughts. Love to know what you want to see more of or less of in these panels. This is going to be an ongoing show for us, so let us know what you think. To everybody that joined us live today, thank you guys so much. I go live. It was a great experience for us. Hopefully it was amazing for you guys. And until next time, my friends, be legendary and subscribe. All right, peace out.